guys, welcome back to the channel. So today we are doing another fun video called Dolls I Used to Dislike But Now Love. Now, if you guys hadn't noticed, I've been gone a little while. I've been super busy, it's been chaotic, and I've missed filming, so I'm back and I'm excited. Today's video is fun because I make a lot of opinion-based videos, but it's not often that I talk about opinions that change in more of a positive aspect, and I want to talk about that because opinions change all the time, especially with things like dolls, and for me, nothing is really set in stone, so even if I say I don't like a doll, it can completely change and there's really no logic to it, so I want to kind of talk about that today because it's a lot of fun. So without further ado, let's get right into today's video. So the first doll we're going to talk about is Joss Kendrick. I remember very vividly when I first came back into dolls last year, seeing Joss for the first time. I was completely disappointed. I was like, wait a second. They've had 3 years since the last time I even looked at the American Girl website. They had 3 years to get everything together and they present me with this. And I was mad because I didn't like her face mold. It was new to me, but it wasn't like, some of the face molds just kind of grow on you right away, but hers was one of the ones that just did not for me at all. And I was so disappointed to see her. But I will admit, it didn't take very long before I ended up really liking her face mold. It took me actually seeing some people on YouTube who had her for me to see her in a different way and to really fall for her. So I absolutely love her now. I own her. Her name's Phoebe in my collection, and I'm really happy with Joss. So that opinion definitely changed for the better. Next up is Kaya, and the whole thing about Kaya is a little bit different. There was never really a time that I disliked Kaya, but I definitely didn't used to notice her. And that makes me really sad because now that I have Kaya in the last couple of years, I've really grown to love her. But originally, I don't think I ever really noticed her because she'd been out the entire time I was collecting dolls. So she was never really that shiny new doll that everyone wanted, so she never really had the forefront of my attention. But now that she's been out and I've seen her and I've really paid attention to kind of the older dolls, I love her collection and I think she's very underappreciated, and Kaya is just stunning. And I hope in the future that people really do start to collect Kaya more because I don't see her as often as I wish I would. Next up, we're going to talk about Sutton. She's my Truly Me number 54, and the reason why I used to dislike her was not because of the doll itself, but simply because she had bangs. I, in case you guys didn't know, used to absolutely hate dolls with bangs. I didn't want any. I would actively avoid them. Even if I saw them for a ridiculously good deal, I wouldn't buy them just because I didn't want any with bangs. A lot has changed since then, and this doll in particular has been on my wish list for a long time, up until very recently for obvious reasons. And you guys may be like, wait a second, you are obsessed with Ivy. I definitely am, but I didn't used to be. It was a terrible thing, and I have had a lot of character development in the last few years because now I love dolls with bangs and I definitely want a lot more. So I need to actively start looking for them because I'm just completely obsessed with them, and Sutton is no exception. So, about not even a month ago, I posted a video called Dolls I Regret Buying, and in that video, I had this girl right here. She is a Sage Copeland doll that I renamed to be Shane. Now, I said that Shane was one of my least favorite dolls in my entire collection. And then in that video, as I was filming it, I was like, wait a second, I actually kind of like her. I might keep her out for a little while and see if I kind of like grew from that. And the answer is yes, I definitely did, because this doll, by no means do I regret anymore. Even in just the last month, I have grown to be so attached to Shane. It is ridiculous. I love her. She's adorable. And I see her in all the ways I used to not be able to. And I cannot believe that she's in my collection and that she's been in a box for like the last 6 months and in a cabinet. I didn't even look at her for a good 5-6 years. I mean, I probably actively maybe even liked her for 10 minutes out of the entire time that I owned her up until a month ago, and I can't believe it because she is stunning. I love her, and I think I've grown to really appreciate the classic mold a lot more in recent months than I used to, because I kind of got to a point where my collection started to overlap and a lot of it wasn't classic mold anymore, and so I've really started to love dolls with the classic mold. Though they're still not my favorite molds, I definitely have grown to love the older style as well. Kyla, this one's for you. So, For the longest time, I have not liked Isabelle. I have had her for a long time. I never really cared about her, picked up on her, and I feel like a lot of people felt the same way. Isabelle has a reputation for being kind of that doll that nobody likes, but I don't know what it is. Maybe it is Kyla getting in my head, or maybe it's just seeing her more in general, having a greater appreciation for the classic mold. Either way, I have really been loving her lately. Her name is Alice in my collection, and her blushing is really cute. Her hair is really fun to style, and I think in general she's just a really pretty classic looking doll. And I think a huge part of the issue for me behind not liking Isabelle was because I was upset with AGIG for not being more inclusive and having a more diverse Girl of the Year line. But if I separate the fact that she is a Girl of the Year and just look at her as a doll, I definitely do think she's pretty, and I can disconnect those two things now and appreciate her as the doll she is that I own, although not necessarily agreeing with the fact that American Girl made her a Girl of the Year during that time. So next up we have Banks. She's my Truly Me number 60. And the thing with Banks is that I didn't even know I wanted her. I really didn't even know she existed. I kind of just liked her based on the pictures I'd seen of her, and I didn't really care for her. However, when I buy stuff, I sometimes like to kind of surprise myself and pick something that I never had on my radar because I find it interesting, and that way I get things that I wouldn't normally get. And so I went into the store that day and I was like, listen, I'm just gonna get whatever doll stands out to me, despite the fact that maybe I didn't really care for them before. And this is the doll that kind of stood out to me among the options. There were only about 10 dolls there, and this is the one that kind of just stood out to me. So I got her, and ever since that day, I've been using her a lot. I've been doing her hair and kind of just displaying her and really appreciating her. And it's kind of crazy because she's one of those dolls that just looks like every other doll. Some of the dolls I don't even like. She's got layered hair, and I don't like the fact that her eyebrows are lighter than her hair and that her lips basically have no color. But somehow, despite all of those things, she's the doll that stood out to me, and I really have been loving her. And she's a doll that really stands out to me now, even in my giant collection. So I don't know what that says about me. And now that I think about it, I don't think I've ever shown her. So introducing Banks. This video has made me realize that a lot of the Girl of the Years I didn't originally like, which is something I never really thought about before or like realized about myself, so that's kind of a wild thing. Anyway, here is Blair Wilson. Her name is Ashton. Now, it's interesting to me because there was never a time where I necessarily disliked her, but there was definitely a lot of disinterest. I didn't really care about her. I never really noticed her that much. I thought it was interesting that she had the lightest skin tone, so I always knew that I was probably going to end up getting her, but I didn't really care all that much about her until I saw her in person. And then I was like, wait a second. I need this doll. I need her. I don't find her boring at all. I am officially a Blair Wilson fan, and I don't really understand why people find her boring. I think spring has just gotten into my head because a lot of dolls that I didn't really used to care for are just on the top of my list now, and I'm not sure what it is. It might change. I don't know what's going on, but I will update you guys when it all changes and I get pessimistic again, because don't worry, it's gonna happen. It just might take longer than it normally does. And the final doll we'll be talking about today is Kira Bailey, my doll Luca. Now, the interesting thing about this doll is I originally bought her simply because she was the new Girl of the Year. It's a tradition for me. I need to get all of them, and I didn't really care about her that much either way. And the crazy thing is I've completely been obsessed with her. Since getting Luca, I reach for her all the time. I love her. And despite that being like a really cool thing, I definitely want AGIG to branch out. I didn't want her to be another blonde doll, and I certainly didn't want her to have green eyes. I'm so sick of this green eye color. But despite all those things, for whatever reason, and the fact that her hair is just a complete mess, and she's just kind of a difficult doll in general, and I don't like Julie, who is kind of like her doppelganger in some ways. I don't know why, because up until the moment that we saw her leaks, I was really hoping that she would end up being a Japanese Girl of the Year, but despite that disappointment, I still really like her, and I do find myself using her a lot. Well, those are all the dolls I have for you guys today. Make sure that if you liked today's video to give it a big thumbs up and leave a comment down below. I am going to be doing a Q&A in my first ever vlog, so make sure you're asking me non-doll related questions in the comments down below. I'm not really sure when my next video is going to be out. I'm hoping to have another one out this week, but likely it'll end up being next Monday. And yeah, I will see you guys soon. Get ready for a really fun collab that will be coming out next week, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye!